Good morning. Thank you all for being here today. We've got an excellent crew here. We're going to chat about something that is very much a part of the workplace dynamic for any company, I would hope. So we're going to start with a brief introduction with all the panelists, and each of them is going to share one principle that guides their thinking around recognition and rewards in the workplace. So we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. Well, hi everyone. My name is Samara Swenson. I'm a U.S. Senior Marketing Manager at Prezi. For those who don't know about Prezi, Prezi is an e-gift card company that handles everything related to gift cards related B2C or B2B. And a principle that I'd like to share with recognition, I guess, it's keep it personal because there's no one size fits all.
Hi, Serafina Miller. I'm a Senior Vice President in Aon's Health Solutions team out of our, what we would call a Northern California office, but happy to be here in San Francisco, born and raised. For those of you that are not familiar with Aon, we not only support human capital consulting in terms of health, wealth, and talent, but also on the risk capital side. So we think about workers' compensation and directors and officers insurance and such, retirement plans. I'd say the principle that helps drive me is recognizing that we've known for well over 10 years that diverse organizations, both from leadership to their employee base, outperform financially those that are not diverse. And so my role is to help employers create those benefits that attract and retain that diverse workforce so you can outperform your competitors.
Thank you. And I'm Jennifer Cullen. Hopefully you can hear this. I work at Visa, and I'm going to assume everybody knows Visa. But the one thing that I'll say is a lot of people think of Visa as just a credit card company, and we are a technology company. We're the system behind the payment. And I have the great opportunity to lead our employee experience and listening programs there. And I would say that the one principle, I'm going to go with two, I'm going to cheat, two principles that guide our approach to recognition is one, just making sure that what we're recognizing is tied to our Visa values, which we call our leadership principles. And then along with that is making sure that it's inclusive, that everyone has the opportunity to participate in our recognition program.
Thank you so much. Before I get into some of my questions, I just want to get a kind of feel for the crowd here. How many of you work at a company that's like 100 people or less? Okay, got it. How about like 100 to 500? Okay. 10,000 plus? Okay, good amount. Got it. And how many of you are located in the Bay Area? Okay, got it. And outside? Okay, got some visitors. Thanks for coming out. Awesome. Okay, so I think all of our questions hopefully will address the very demographics of the folks here and the companies that you work at. Obviously, each of these lovely people have their own experiences to share. And so we'll start with thinking about rewards recognition programs. Obviously, things have changed a lot in the last 100 years, and with new technologies, that's kind of advanced certain aspects of employee experience. How is your organization rethinking rewards and recognition to reflect what employees truly value, especially at the different stages of life that they may be at, the different demographics, et cetera? And we can start with Serafina.
Sure, thank you. So Aon released earlier this year our 2025 Employee Sentiment Survey. And that's really where I think a lot of these conversations start, is recognizing that we're dealing with a very diverse workforce and they're all going to have differing needs. And so as an example, through that Employee Sentiment Survey, we're seeing how by generation, Gen Z all the way up to baby boomers, while they might value the top 5 benefits, if it's medical, paid time off, dental, flexible work schedule, retirement benefits, how they prioritize those benefits is very different. So your Gen Z is going to be prioritizing paid time off, work-life balance over retirement. Just a plug for those of you who deal with retirement benefits, please get them engaged because we do want them to value those benefits as equally. But those, in terms of baby boomers, they don't maybe not value paid time off. They're more focused on retirement benefits, even life and disability benefits. So our online shopping experience has very much stepped into and kind of infiltrated the employee experience around benefits. And so while we don't have to customize a package for me at my age at 47 with a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old and for somebody who's 25 and coming out of university and starting for the first time, how we leverage communications to demonstrate the value proposition becomes really important.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect to it, the outreach, not necessarily just the actual reward. We've got Allan Brown at the end here joining us on stage. Do you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about one principle that guides your thinking to rewards and recognition?
Sure. I'm Allan Brown. I'm the head of Total Rewards at Snowflake. I've been there for about 5 months. Have had a lot of fun over my career for the last 3 decades. I've spent time in comp, benefits, HR systems, and analytics. Spent time at Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, and most recently Electronic Arts before Snowflake. Thought I had retired about 18 months ago and was advising AI software companies, but the excitement of how AI is changing the work environment, I just couldn't stay away. So I had to get back on the field. The principle that guides me, I guess, it's going to be that we all want to be seen for who we are, what we bring to a company and what we value in life. And I know that the most momentous times of my career have been when my manager actually could see me, I guess that's it.
Thank you. So Serafina answered the question, but did anyone else want to add in terms of how your organization is rethinking these programs with changing demographics and differences in generations, but also in terms of diversity, life experience?
Yeah, I'd like to share that, for example, at Prezi, we develop different programs for different, let's say if it's HR leaders or if it's sales managers, for everyone, we are constantly developing all these different programs that fit different needs or that may fit different generations.
Yeah, I think to your point about Gen Z not accessing or perhaps not investing as much in retirement, it is interesting to see the various differences in behavior and approaches to jobs and careers, right? And so how do you make sure that you are giving employees the flexibility and autonomy that they want in rewards and recognition, and also in the ways that they access it? We can start with Samara.
Yeah, sure. So at Prezi, like I was saying, what the value that drives us the most is that one size doesn't fit all. So at Prezi, what we are doing, like I said, it's an electronic gift card company, and so our core product is the Smart Card. And so essentially this Smart Card, you can swap it for across more than 400 brands. And so we're constantly, like I said, developing programs of how we can fit everyone's needs. And so by being able to swap these gift cards, we are giving the chance for all of our employees to swap it for something that they may need. We are also able to track what they are swapping it for, so that way it's also a measurement of how they're feeling. Let's say if maybe they're swapping it for more groceries than for specific retailers, then we can figure out that maybe there's like a budget constraint that's going on in the economy that it's affecting our employees. So yeah, that's just like a few of the ways that we are doing it at Prezi.
Allan, I know you mentioned earlier that the principle that guides your approach is feeling seen. How does that play out in the workplace when you are thinking about how to address individual experiences and individual needs?
Big focus on manager training. I think managers are sort of the face of the company for individuals. Although most of the time, a lot of managers don't have any idea what someone's doing on a daily basis, especially when they're remote. They often don't see those little moments of truth when the employee feels like, wow, I just did something today that was amazing. This felt really good. Finding those things, I think, is the job of the manager. Having conversations. I mean, I'll tell you a simple thing that I do. I have a team meeting. And started out with asking everyone to just, shout outs to the rest of the team. And the things that come out are little moments that I would never see as their manager. And so that's where we start. I mean, I could go on for a while, but manager training and the responsibility of managers that they have to guide, mentor, coach, and try to see the employee.
Yeah, it seems like that's a lot of times the part of the job that people don't conceive of as work or conceive of as an accessory and not a necessity. How do you actually measure whether employees are feeling recognized while ensuring that the process is scalable and bias-free? I think, Jennifer, given you work for this massive giant, probably can speak to that.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, I get to lead employee listening, so all of our employee surveys. And with that, I'll start with I also lead recognition, and from day one, on day two, we have an onboarding session called Onboarding Essentials, where we just explain all the different systems an employee will use at Visa, and we introduce them to our peer-to-peer recognition program that day. And then in their first 30 days, at the end of their first 30 days, we nudge them to say, might you want to use the recognition program and the points that we give employees every month to do peer-to-peer recognition to recognize somebody that helped you in your onboarding journey? So that's their first introduction, not with a focus on being recognized, but giving recognition. And to your point, Allan, with that platform, when somebody gets, even we call it a small R and a big R, so small R recognitions is just the day-to-day stuff. Thanks for jumping on that call to help me with that Excel formula, or for helping me learn how to do an agent, or whatever it is, to the big R, which is like, you landed some big project or a deal or something. And managers get notified anytime there's a peer-to-peer recognition, so the manager can go in and then boost that uplift, as we call our program. So I diverted to talking about that. So how we measure that is through surveys. We collect both prompted and unprompted feedback. So we'll use surveys to ask employees about their experiences, specifically as they're tied to employee engagement. And then we look at unprompted feedback or behaviors as well. So with that peer-to-peer recognition program, we look at variance across our different functions. We're 32,000 plus employees across our different geographic locations to make sure there's not big differences in the way that folks are recognizing one another. And then we ask them, do you feel recognized? And we tie that to the uplifts or the posts they get in that recognition program.
Just curious, how are you designing these programs or surveys to make sure that you are picking up on things that people might not feel comfortable saying right out?
Yeah, I have the benefit of a background in organizational psychology, and with that you get lots of training on how to design surveys in a way that elicit what you're really looking for. So it's careful. It's not just throwing out a survey using a random survey tool, which I won't name, but a lot of people do things like that. So there is science that goes into the actual question design. We guarantee confidentiality. Our employees trust us. We get over 90% participation in our surveys because they trust that we're going to do something with the data. They trust that their managers are not seeing their individual responses. And we ask for follow-up questions too when they give us sort of an unfavorable or a negative rating on a particular experience. We'll follow that up with an open-ended question to collect a little bit more sentiment. So it's like having a conversation with your employees in a very safe space.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Thank you. That actually ties into the next question pretty well. We have lots of new emerging technologies, as I'm sure you all are aware. So how does that impact the way that you approach rewards and recognition? AI obviously is the big one, but there is also a lot that has changed in the last 10 years in terms of thinking about infrastructure, software, things like that. Allan, I think, might be best position to start.
Sure. Actually coming off of the last topic, there's usually lots of incredible, rich comments that come out of the surveys. And we use AI to sort of mine those and put them into language that's going to actually help people be seen. And we use that to drive a lot of the actions that we take on the survey. You're right, it is a conversation. I know that prior to my arrival at Snowflake, they did a survey. The company's moving very quick. They did not say anything back to the employees at all. It's pretty bad. I know as an IO psychologist that probably hurts. So the following year, when they did the survey, we've done everything right. Actions coming out of each group, managers participating, with in group sessions and talking about the results, validating them. So validating the findings in each of the teams, having conversations, some of the tough ones that unearth what's not going right. So a lot of it is, AI helps us, kick it off and introduces the things that we can talk about, provides a lot of talking points. Not everyone's comfortable having difficult conversations. So, and if you want it to be consistent across the company, that's very helpful. The other thing I'll say, just on the topic of AI, so Snowflake is definitely an AI company. We're trying to pull all the data together inside a company, even structured, unstructured, and then use it in ways that can help make better decisions. We are trying to be our own best customer. So the CEO is playing with products, describing them in meetings, and everyone in the company is expected to sort of play with AI. And I'm not just talking about ChatGPT or Gemini or any of the others, using things like Cursor and other products to try to code. So pretty amazing, and I think getting employees engaged in that, and just the experimentation of it, has built a lot of excitement, and we're already seeing some pretty amazing stuff come out of the use of those tools.
Jennifer, do you want to?
Well, now I'm like, I don't know what Cursor is. I need to go research that one. I thought I was up on that stuff. Two other examples I thought I would provide, and they're both AI as well, so maybe that is just where we're all headed. But the peer-to-peer platform that we use has a really cool coaching feature. So when somebody writes a post that's going to be seen by the whole company, it's on a public wall, it will automatically scrub the post and coach the person to make sure that it's bias-free. So one that I've been trying to work on personally is to stop saying guys. Hey guys, thanks for showing up. That's not bias-free language. So that's a really cool feature that we turned on. And then a second thing, and I'll get somebody on my team, Liz Tipton, I'll give her credit, but she just built a co-pilot agent. So last year we launched our first company award program. So it's based on our values. Our CEO picks the final 16. It's a completely blind review process, very, very rigorous to get this award that's only awarded to 16 people. But we didn't see the number of nominations that we had hoped to see last year, and some of the nominations were not written to the standard that we were asking them to be written, with impacts and metrics and just covering certain aspects of the value that the person was recognized for. So my teammate took it upon herself to write or to develop her co-pilot agent that we're gonna use this year to help guide people through that nomination write-up. So it's really cool to see things like that come. And she's not a developer or an AI specialist, but it's kind of very accessible, and it'll have an impact on 32,000 people in their write-ups. Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Yeah, to your point too about bias, I think also tone, over text, right, or messaging, and can sometimes be misconstrued or misinterpreted. So that's also an interesting way that I've seen different uses of AI try and help pick that up. So moving to kind of a slightly different direction, working across so many organizations and with the importance of personalization to the employee experience, how do you balance recognition and rewards when financial resources are perhaps more limited, when you have fewer employees, or you're a little bit more strapped? Serafina, if you want to start.
Certainly. I mean, flexibility and choice becomes super critical to this, because we know that employers can't totally foot the bill across the board for everything. And in all candor, that sometimes I can also say that's why employees have paychecks, like in reality, right? So from a total reward standpoint, we want to look at, I view it as a pie, right, in terms of compensation. And if your employer offers, equity, retirement benefits, paid time off, and as well as your health and welfare benefits. And so employers are better positioned in the marketplace when they really are putting flexibility and choice as the core competency for that benefits offering. And obviously compensation can't be always as flexible. So really thinking about, I'll be technical for a second, but the richness of your medical plan offering, right? An employer might offer 3 options. I think about high, medium, and low, right? It's kind of like your car insurance. If you're willing to pay more when you seek services, you should receive lower compensate or lower costs when you go and enroll in that plan, because you're willing to take on some of that risk. Because I might be more risk tolerant. I might have a preference toward a health savings account versus I go to the doctor and I only pay $15, where I don't have to think about what things cost. And so employers can spread those choices out to give employees real value in that offering. And it's interesting too on the voluntary benefit side when we think about auto and home as an option, but more specifically, there are some health programs through voluntary benefits that can become very important. So if someone has a family history of cancer, maybe a cancer program on a voluntary program might be important to them. It might not be important to me. So if it's important to them, they can enroll in that plan and pay for it themselves. And so that really ties in, again, I always think of these as being more financial wellness driven benefits, not just shoring up because I think I might have a future health condition, this is what I want. But these really tie into your employees' overall financial well-being. And so, and I hate to say it too, but there are so many programs that have now been tied into medical carriers. Sometimes we forget about discount programs that are automatically included with your vendor relationships. So we try and always sit down and make sure that we're optimizing things that are already built in that are effectively free because they're already partnered in. I'll name Aetna as an example. They partner with Hinge Health. So it's already built into your medical carrier offering. So it's a digital physical therapy solution that people could be engaging in.
Yeah, I think my company actually has something like that, and I've definitely benefited from it. It was like one of those virtual physical therapy at-home stretching kits that I, as somebody who sits behind a computer most of the time, it really helps me out. So we've talked a little bit about how compensation has changed and evolved from the kind of traditional pay model. At the same time, increasingly we're seeing in this current moment people feeling disengaged, feeling disconnected from their workplace, the work values, even the actual day-to-day responsibilities they're in charge of. So what is your experience with that? What are you hearing about it, and what do you think about how to actually change that?
Yeah, sure. So for example, at Prezi, a lot of companies come to us because they want to reward or incentivize their employees. And so a lot of things that we've been seeing is that they come to us because their employees aren't really motivated or they need to recognize them. So something that we have implemented is this system where you get 3 points every day and you get to give them across through all your coworkers. And so this is like a small way to make your coworkers and everyone feel seen, make them feel rewarded, make them feel like the work that they're doing at the workplace is valued. And so this has really worked for us. Then it goes tied a little bit into Prezi that once they collect a certain amount of points, they can cash it in for a gift card. But this has definitely helped all the companies that we are working with.
If I can jump in too, I'd say the employee value proposition becomes so core in these moments of current disengagement. I will just take a moment to plug Aon myself. What I've seen in terms of the recommitment to health equity, the recommitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility from a culture standpoint becomes really critical, because to your point about all employees feeling seen, you need to align the say-do. So as long as it's not performative exercise, right? If it's part of your culture, to reiterate those specific values and to continue to demonstrate that, because we know that compensation and benefits is the number one driver for an employee to change jobs. So we also, again, saw in the employee sentiment survey, number 2 is having a fun place to work. Don't we all want that? But number 3 is working for an employer that aligns to your core values. And so as employers continue to communicate and demonstrate their employee value proposition, their core values as a company, sometimes that disconnect will get narrower because the employee realizes they really are at the right place and they want to stay engaged and participate.
I don't know if I missed it earlier, but the pandemic changed a few things. And there was a time there where it felt like there was a bit of a power shift to the employees. Now it seems like it's swinging back in the other direction. Before the pandemic, I used to think, well, if companies would just offer work-life balance, then the ability to work from home, and there are a lot of companies that did it successfully. Cisco comes to mind. But now we're shifting back to this, everyone's got a return to work policy that they're trying to figure out. I know a lot of colleagues are seeing those not quite land, but there are benefits on both sides. And I think some of the ways that we're competing, in the AI space, some of these, it's out of the realm of traditional compensation, just doesn't even make sense. So how do you compete? And then you're going head to head with other companies. Part of it is the actual employee experience that they're going to have, what it's going to feel like to work at this company versus that company. And you can direct candidates to the web to find, what is it really like working at a particular company. I'm not going to name any, but some of them have got really brutal cultures. And so when you're competing against that, recruiters can bring this into the conversation. Hey, by the way, we take a holistic view. Of course, we're going to pay you competitively, but we want you to have a good life as well. And that's not just work. So that means, somehow tap into something. And I can't say that we've perfected this yet because we're still paying multiple millions of dollars and multiples of what you think the job is worth. But we're looking for ways to sort of tap into what that person cares about beyond money. If we can't, then we're just turning everyone into mercenaries. So that's a big effort for us right now.
And to put in a plug, we have found hybrid working arrangements actually allow employees to feel the most valued versus being forced to return to work. And we know that solely working from home, there's a real disengagement from company culture. So I'm personally, and from a survey standpoint, plugging the hybrid working arrangement.
And part of it is, yes, I can work in my underwear, I can walk to the refrigerator and I can grab whatever I want and stuff like that. But part of it is that they're able to sort of manage their life. They can de-stress. Not just introverts, but even extroverts can de-stress at home a little bit. And they're probably, I'd say that a lot of them are much more productive. And of course, there's the lack of the commute. That's huge.
The traffic is really, we were just complaining about it earlier. So not having to drive like 1.5 hours definitely is a plus in my book.
I don't know how many, I know you get other questions. I don't know how many companies are doing it, but if you offered, what's it worth to have the employee in the office versus allowing them to work from home? If you can monitor the work that they're doing, the quality of it and stuff like that, would someone take 10% less, 15% less? What's the number? I suspect that they would. It's valuable.
Right, definitely. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but in today's climate, employees are navigating not just workplace challenges, but increasingly, political, economic, social tensions. How do you, and part of what we've discussed also is, baking all of these things into the company culture, right? How do you actually ensure that employees believe that, right? And are participating in it, not just kind of hearing oh, well, that's what companies have to say, and I'm over here stressed about all these other things, and they're only saying this so that they can get me to work and be productive. This is to any and all.
I was going to say that I think that to what Allan was saying earlier, that recognition, at least from where I sit, is a universal human need. And like you said, everybody wants to be seen, heard, appreciated. So just making sure you build that culture. So for us, we have the peer-to-peer platform where people can do those posts, even without points and money. So if you are running more on a budget, even just social recognition means a lot. I worked at a company called Culture Amp before I was at Visa, and they set up a little table, and they just had cards that were sitting on the table where you could pick up a card and write a card to somebody at any time. So just the small moments, I think, make us all feel human and like we're participating. In addition, I do think that for us, we call them people leaders instead of managers, which is great, but sometimes it's annoying. But anyways, our managers, we do think that they're also the unlock. And I really do believe that making sure that we cultivate an environment and a culture where managers or people leaders understand that's a core part of their job in building their team and knowing each team member and helping their team grow and creating the space for that. And
Seems like there's a line to be drawn, though, too. You know, we don't want you to bring all your neuroses to work. You know, I mean, we don't want you to bring all your personal issues. And while a manager, you know, can have a conversation, you want to get to know somebody. I think we could probably benefit from drawing that line a little more tightly now. And I know for a lot of companies that are government contractors like ourselves, we have to be really, really careful about sort of dipping into some place that's going to create conflict inside the organization or outside.
I think also just alignment, again, of the say and the do. Something as simple as representation in employee benefit communication materials, right? So that people can see themselves reflected in every aspect of the company, maybe not always the CEO, but just knowing that people are taking a conscientious effort to think without the blinders on, and really seeing their total employee base and thinking, how can I weave that visibility through my total rewards programs, that every single employee, regardless of gender, generation, and such, can see themselves reflected in the communications at a minimum, because that actually stems from the total rewards strategy, from leadership really thinking consciously about this and then giving a physical demonstration. So it shows the employees that leadership is thinking about it and engaged in it.
So how do you approach these nuances then? Because, you know, I understand what you're saying in terms of having to draw a very careful line, but a lot of times it's not as, you know, it's not as simple in reality, right? And it's harder to actually practice. And especially, you know, we're also discussing in the green room a little bit of the different health benefits that are kind of, that have been shifting and changing over the years as different people, different groups are, you know, accessing or demanding the right to access different kinds of benefits. How do you make sure that all of that is also a core part of the culture without necessarily crossing the line of, you know, what you were discussing earlier, Allan?
You asking me that question?
Well, it's anyone. But Serafina, I actually think you might be able to talk a little bit, because we were discussing the kind of healthcare components backstage in terms of paying for access to abortion or transgender care.
Certainly, I mean, again, when the Dobbs ruling came down, I know working with my clients, I was helping implement the travel and lodging benefits, because the clients I am privileged to work with are focused on an equitable benefit offering regardless of where the employees sit. In this case, it began to have differences by state. And sometimes it also happens with the clients I work with that are multinational, right? So they've got employees all over the globe. So I'm working with my global consulting counterparts where we're setting at least some minimum benefit standards. But I think it goes back to, again, understanding the demographics of your employee base. Something as simple as recognizing that you might need to really address perimenopause and menopause in the workforce if you want to retain your female employee base, right? Because too many of us at a certain age are leaving the workforce to deal with some of the challenging symptoms that we go through with menopause. I'm going to put a plug out there for Midi Health. They're already contracted with all of the PPO networks of the major health plans. You can just communicate them and send your employees to them. But there's also vendors now like Posterity Health who are focused on men's health, right? So because they also need support and direction to care. And so there are things that employers could be doing, just thinking about existing vendors in the landscape. I'm happy to have conversations after this. But you know, to really reach those employees, they feel seen and supported. And then I say go back to your comment about surveys. That's where, through employee listening, to get that circular feedback. I think we need to get to a place where we're not afraid of the iteration of benefits and therefore asking for feedback each year to see what is working. Maybe connect with your employee resource groups to get that pressure test back from them, because the intention might not align with the outcome. And so feedback is a gift in that sense.
Anyone else want to? I know that wasn't in the questions I sent, so that's why they're a little quiet on stage. No worries if not. I think Serafina spoke really well to all of that. We have a couple of seconds left. I just wanted to a quick key takeaway or piece of advice for leaders seeking to elevate their strategies. If we can just go one by one.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, I think my message would just be to make it personalized, because it's for rewards. There's not like a one size fits all.
I'm just still going to plug flexibility and choice, because that really is going to reach the most of your employee population.
I would say make your recognition consistent, tied back to your values, and inclusive and available to everyone.
I'd say find out what matters to employees beyond compensation and benefits. Is it trust with the leadership? Is it anything outside the norm? I think there's a lot that can be mined there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for being here.